All right, say hi to everybody, and then you gotta go.
Hey, Kat.
She was asleep at the other end of the house. Every time I'm on Zoom, she comes running.
And good evening. Welcome to tonight's Xenia City Council meeting. Today is Thursday, December 10th, 2020. This evening's meeting is being brought to you via City Hall and about 8 different living rooms in the Xenia community. First off tonight, we are going to do a call to order, followed by an invocation in honor of Vice President Edgar Wallace by the mayor, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by our Honorable Mayor Sarah Mays.
Let's pray. Lord, we are very thankful for another night to come together and to steward over the city and to be a part of our local government and participate in our community to the best of our abilities. And tonight, we acknowledge and greatly miss Vice President Wallace. We are thankful for the 76 years that you gave him on this earth. We are thankful for his leadership on our council, for the wisdom, for the questions, the pushing, the conversations that he constantly brought to the table. We're thankful for his life as a pastor, for the wise counsel and wisdom that he imparted with his church and with his members. We're thankful for his role as a friend, as a confidant, as a leader in his home, as a husband, a dad, a grandfather. We ask, Lord, that we will remember him well. We will honor him well, but I pray that we would honor and remember him by caring for his family, that we would remember Joyce, his adult children, his grandchildren, and those who are grieving. I pray, God, that we would not forget to check on them, to love on them, to pray for them, to bring them to you before your throne on a regular basis. We are again thankful for his life, for his testimony, for the way that he loved you with all his heart, soul, and mind, and he was very open about his faith. We thank you, and we give all this to you. In your name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mays. Appreciate those words tonight. It's a rather sad meeting for us. It is our last meeting before the Christmas holiday. So we are going to press forward. And at this time, I will ask for roll call.
Councilman Scrivens? Councilwoman Dean?
Here.
Councilman Branham?
Here.
Councilman Dean?
Here.
Mayor Mays?
Here.
President Smith?
Here.
Councilman Scrivens is here. He getting connected now.
All right, thank you very much. Next on our agenda is the approval of minutes from our city council meeting on November 24th, 2020. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
So move.
Thank you. And I'll entertain a second.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Branham. I didn't get the first. I'm sorry. Who was that?
Me, Rebecca.
Rebecca. Okay. Councilwoman Dean on the move and seconded by Councilman Branham. Any corrections, questions regarding the minutes before us?
Mr. Smith, just one quick adjustment. There was just one sentence basically that Michelle changed around, basically changing that the concrete was not included on the pole barn project. So just a little conversation back and forth between me and Mr. Berger, just for the record.
All right, thank you very much. We'll get that noted. Any other corrections or questions regarding the minutes? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next is special presentations. There are none scheduled for tonight, nor any audience comments have been submitted to the city clerk by 3 p.m. today. So we have no audience comments for this evening. Those that are watching, our meeting is via Zoom due to the COVID-19 situation. And we're going to move on to old business. Our first item is item A, an ordinance, a second reading, ordinance 2020-28. This is amending sections 216-03 and 27407 of the codified ordinances of the city of Xenia, Ohio, to add classified position of a GIS analyst to the engineering division of the Public Service Department. This was originally introduced by Councilman Dean on November 24th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for passage, please.
Thank you, Councilman Dean. Move for passage. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilwoman Dean. Any questions regarding this change? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item, item B, ordinance 2020-29. This is also a second reading. This is accepting the dedication from Greene County Career Center of the new public street to be known as Innovation Drive. This is introduced by Mayor Mays at our last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for passage.
Thank you. Move for passage by the mayor. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Scrivens. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this ordinance? All right, we don't have any, so we'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is scheduled for public hearings. However, there are none scheduled for tonight, so we'll be moving on to new business. Our first item, ordinance 2020-30, is listed as an emergency item. This is amending ordinance 2020-27 to provide appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Xenia for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020. And declaring an emergency. And Mr. Finance Director, would you like to explain this, please?
Sure. The request this evening for an additional appropriation is related to the purchase of a new fire engine. There's actually an agenda item later in the meeting on the agenda tonight that can describe this in a little more detail. But the core issue is that this engine was scheduled for replacement in 2021. The lag time on manufacturing these engines is much longer than what it had been in the past. And in order for us to get this thing here in a reasonable amount of time, we felt it necessary to order it as soon as possible. There was also some pricing advantages to going ahead and purchasing it in 2020 instead of waiting until next year. And so we're requesting an appropriation in the amount of $535,000 so that we can get the funds encumbered and order the engine. The engine actually would still not arrive until 2022, and we wouldn't make payment until that time. So we aren't actually bumping up the time frame where we would actually make the purchase. It's just that we are advancing the time frame where we're actually encumbering the dollar. So we're requesting an appropriation this evening so that we can do that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duke. Any questions? All right. So at this time, I will ask for a approval and a motion to amend this ordinance and to provide the appropriations for the purchase of this fire engine. Do I have a motion as an emergency?
Mr. President, I'll go ahead and say that because we're going to order this immediately and it makes good sense to do that, I'll go ahead and offer this. I'll introduce this.
All right, thank you. I'll take that as a motion by
Motion,
Councilman Scrivens.
Yeah, a
Oh, we
motion
have a-
introduced.
Thank you. This is actually to be voted on tonight. So
Right.
we have a motion and we'll need a second, please.
Councilman Branham for the second.
Thank you, Councilman Branham. All right. Normal protocol will ask if there's any additional questions. I don't think we have any. So we'll go ahead and ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item, item B, is Resolution 2020-J. This is also titled an emergency for tonight. This is providing for assessments to be levied and authorizing the finance director to certify those assessments to the Greene County Auditor and declaring an emergency. Mr. Finance Director, would you like to explain this, please?
Sure. From time to time, it is necessary for us to certify assessments to the county auditor for outstanding debts. These are often related to code enforcement issues like weed mowing or outstanding utility bills. The tax bills are actually to be calculated here later this month. And so in order for us to get these assessments on before those tax bills go out, we're requesting that this is passed as an emergency here this evening. We are requesting that assessments be certified in an amount for weeds of $119,022, for trash cleanup, $6,175, for demo of accessory structure, $3,634.10, and for utilities, $75,415.13. Again, we would request that council pass this as an emergency so that we can get these on the tax bills that are calculated later this month.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. We have a rather full agenda tonight, so we'll try to move as quickly as possible. Do we have any, who would like to make the motion on this as an emergency for passage?
I'll move that as an emergency.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Mays.
That was Mayor Mays. Thank you. And do we have a second? I'll move it as the second. Any questions for tonight on this item before us? Nope. Okay. So, Mr. Duke, call the roll, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item is Resolution 2020-K, also titled an emergency. This is authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with ODOT for the South Columbus Street Bridge project in repealing Resolution 2019-B in its entirety and also declaring an emergency. I'm sure, Mr. City Manager, will you explain this tonight?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Staff is recommending the council approve, again, as an emergency, the resolution that would authorize the execution of this LPA with ODOT for the South Columbus Street Bridge project. And this would effectively revoke Resolution 2019-BB. The effective result is that the city would, instead of having ODOT let the project, the city would then, our staff would let the project. We have determined and we feel that based on some changes with ODOT and some of their staffing expenses, that we think we can do this a little more cost effectively if we manage the project in-house. And so we are requesting that this be approved and approved as an emergency, just so that the timeline established, which is pretty aggressive for the bridge construction or rehab project, would not be impacted adversely. So we are requesting approval as an emergency this evening.
All right. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, for explaining that. Do we have a motion to approve this as an emergency?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go ahead and make that motion.
Thank you. Moved by Councilman Scrivens. And do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilman Dean, if I'm correct. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions regarding this resolution for tonight? Nope. Okay. So we'll ask for a roll call on this, Mr. Duke. You're muted.
My apologies.
No problem.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. For those that are watching tonight, our apologies. We are trying to mute ourselves when it's not our turn to speak, just so we have a better quality audio tonight. So occasionally we'll forget to click that button. So our apologies for that. Our next item D, is a resolution. It's 2020-LL, also titled an emergency. This is adopting the 2020 Greene County Hazard Mitigation Plan and declaring an emergency. And we'll allow our city manager to explain this item.
Thank you, sir. For a number of years, the city has partnered with other local jurisdictions under the leadership of the Greene County Emergency Management Agency for a joint hazard mitigation plan. Pursuant to federal legislation, the 2000 Disaster Mitigation Act, local governments must develop, maintain, and periodically update a disaster mitigation plan, which evaluates risks of natural disasters in our region and sets forth a response plan to deal with those types of issues should the need be necessary. The current county plan has reached its 5-year valid lifespan and is expiring, and so a renewal of the plan commenced earlier this year, again under the leadership of the county EMA. The updated county plan has been completed at this point, and adoption of the plan is required in order for the city to be a party to that plan moving forward. It's important to point out that we are required to have documents and plans like this in place. It is a requirement in order to receive disaster mitigation funds through FEMA that we are a party to this type of activity and have these plans in place. And so that's an important reason why this does need to be approved. So staff is requesting and recommending that council approve the resolution that would adopt the Greene County Hazard Mitigation Plan. And we request this evening that it be completed as an emergency, just given the tight timeline established for the county plan approval, and because our resolutions by charter require 2 readings, so that didn't quite work within the time frame that the county had provided for approval. So we are requesting this as an emergency this evening.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. City Manager. And for those that are watching tonight, it normally is normal for us to have quite a few emergency actions closer to the end of the year like this. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt this plan as an emergency. Who would like to make that first motion?
I'll do that, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Dean. And a second? And you can wave your hand up.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you. Seconded by the mayor. Any questions or comments regarding this mitigation plan?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
where is this plan housed, Mr. City Manager? Do we have a copy on file in your office or what?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Running low on power here, trying to plug my cord in real quick. The official copy is submitted by the county with all, on behalf of all the participating entities. We keep a copy. It's part of our overall readiness plans for emergency. So we keep a copy. This particular round, as well as the last round of plan development, was spearheaded by the Public Service Director Engineer, Mr. Berger. We do look to transition that role over to the fire division for the next phase, as they really are subject matter experts for this particular type of activity. So yeah, we have a copy of that, and that's part of our overall library of documents that we keep in the event of an emergency.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. That answer your question, Councilman Scrivens?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other questions regarding this? All right, I'm not seeing any. So we'll ask at this time for a roll call adopting this as an emergency.
Councilman Scrivens?
Only because the county didn't give us enough time. Yes. Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item is an introduction of Resolution 2020-M. This is declaring the necessity for and authorizing the transfer of funds by City of Xenia from the general obligation bond payable fund to the general fund, and directing the finance director to prepare and forward a petition for the said transfer to the Ohio Tax Commission pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code Sections 5705-15 and 5705-16. I hope I said those numbers right. Mr. Finance Director, could you explain this?
Sure, thank you, Council President. In June of 2000, about 20 years ago, a little over, the city issued debt to cover some pension costs as well as street improvements. And they set aside 0.2 mils of inside millage to pay for the debt service on the bonds that were issued. The inside millage is a little odd to go that route to fund debt service, but that's what they did. And so over the last 20 years, we've been paying down that debt. We've made the final debt service payment, and so the debt has been paid off. But there's money set aside in a fund, Fund 461. In the future years, that 0.2 mils is going to revert back to the general fund. But there's some money still left in that fund, $119,000, that is not needed to pay down the debt service. So as property values increase, because it's inside millage, the revenue increased as well. Therefore, the amount in that fund exceeded what was actually needed for the debt. And so these are dollars that really should have been placed. They would have otherwise gone to the general fund. They really should be used for general fund type purposes. And so we need to transfer those back into the general fund. Unfortunately, auditing practices and state law does not allow for us to just unilaterally transfer dollars out of any fund other than the general fund. And so for us to transfer these dollars from 471 over to the general fund, there are some methods prescribed in the ORC that allow us to do that. And so we chose, staff thought that the most advantageous method to pursue this transfer would be to petition the state tax commissioner for him to allow us to make that transfer. And so we're requesting tonight an introduction of this resolution that would allow us to transfer the dollars from this 471 fund into our general fund so that they could really be used for any city purpose. I don't have any reason to believe that it wouldn't be approved, but if for some reason, the ORC is a little murky because the way this bond issue was put together, it's not a special levy that funded it. So, Danette can probably speak to this a little bit too, but it's not all that clear cut exactly who we should petition. We think the best bet is the tax commissioner. And so that's where we want to start. And hopefully we'll get permission to make that transfer back into our general fund so we can put those dollars to good use. Danette, do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, not really. This is an odd one. In 23 years, it's the first time I've ever seen a fund set up where that money that was going into this fund is money that would normally go into the general fund. And I've never seen that before, where it was that general fund money was being diverted into another fund. There are two ways to do it under state law. One is you petition the Court of Common Pleas. The other is you petition the state tax commissioner. I doubt the Court of Common Pleas has seen one of these before. I'm sure the tax commissioner gets these requests all the time. So what you're doing with this resolution is declaring the necessity of making this transfer. It's basically general fund money anyway. This was not a special tax levy. This is just the normal property tax that would have gone into the general fund had it not been diverted to this general obligation bond fund. We have to petition To do that, you're authorizing the finance director to file that petition on the city's behalf. And then we also put the language in there that if the state tax commissioner approves it, you as council have already approved it. So Ryan will be able to transfer that money directly to the general fund once we get that approval.
All right, thank you very much. So this is just more or less a matter of financial housekeeping. And, I appreciate your efforts because our finance department wins awards every year. I'm sure they're just doing everything correctly. So any questions regarding this resolution tonight? If we see none, I'll ask someone, one of my colleagues for an introduction.
Council President, I do have a question. Do
Yes,
we
sir.
have any plan for those dollars, that 120K, going forward? Because it sounds like this is almost some money that we didn't really, not that we didn't know that we didn't have, but it's something that's kind of been unveiled, and it doesn't seem like, there'd probably be any plan going forward with that money. Is there anything that's in the works that we're going to put that towards, or is this something that we're thinking ahead of time?
So it would revert back into our reserve, and obviously, I think we'll meet our reserve requirement for 2020, and so council can obviously make decisions on whether they would want to transfer those dollars to another fund, the General Capital Improvement Fund, for example, to use it for that purpose. In the projections, the $70-some thousand that's the 0.2 mils that's gonna start hitting our general fund in future years, that's been in there for a couple years now, knowing that those dollars were going to hit. So it's kind of built into what we're assuming is going to be our reserve in the future. So, long term, that extra 0.2 mils is already kind of in the projections. The 119,000 is not. So, yeah, council could certainly decide that they want to use that for some, specific purpose if they'd like to do so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duke. Does Councilman Branham, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Any other questions regarding this?
Just say Christmas comes early this year. I'm gonna go play 471.
Okay, so looking for that introduction tonight.
I'd be happy to introduce this, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Councilman Scrivens. Next is Resolution 2020-NN. This is also titled an emergency. This is authorizing a then and now payment of $31,275 to Step Mobile for the purchase of kiosks for the probation department and declaring an emergency. Mr. Finance Director, would you like to enlighten us tonight?
Sure. Thank you, Council President. Back in April of 2020, we brought an appropriation ordinance to council for this specific issue. These kiosks and this software allows probation to do some of their work more remotely. It was in response to the pandemic, and there were some dollars available via grant to buy some of the software in these kiosks. And so council did approve that appropriation ordinance. Unfortunately, the court did not encumber those dollars on a PO. So the dollars were set aside as an appropriation, but they weren't formally encumbered as is required by state law. And so when we got the invoice, some of the services and goods had already been provided. And so the law requires that the finance director sign a then and now statement basically saying the dollars were available at the time that the purchase was made and they're still available today. And we sign off on that. And so it meets the requirements of the audit. But if it exceeds $3,000, then the state law says it has to come back to council to approve that then and now. So because we didn't open the PO, we need to bring that back to council this evening, requesting approval so that we can approve the then and now statement that's required from an auditing standpoint.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion to authorize this payment as an emergency?
I'll move that as an emergency.
Thank you. Mayor Mays moved as an emergency. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Council President.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Branham. We have a first and a second. And City Clerk, that was Councilman Branham. Do we have any questions regarding this resolution? right, we're not seeing any, so at this time we'll move for roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item, also an emergency due to the timing, is a posthumous appreciation for Vice President Councilman Dr. Edward A. Wallace in recognition of his valuable service to the community of Xenia. Whereas Dr. Wallace was an esteemed pastor, educator, counselor, and entrepreneur, public servant who would always greet you with a kind word, a loving spirit, and a song in his heart, he leaves behind a wonderful legacy of accomplishments, an unparalleled body of work. Whereas Dr. Wallace prepared for ministry with social work degrees from the University of Kentucky, the University of Louisville. He received seminary training at Emmanuel Christian Cemetery and the Graduate Theological Foundation, where he earned his MBA in church management and his Doctor of Ministry in Pastoral Care and Counseling. Whereas Dr. Wallace loved the Lord and his church, he enjoyed teaching and preaching, and he served churches in North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, and upon the time of his death, he was serving as pastor of the First United Christian Church in Xenia, giving his last sermon as recently as November 8th of 2020. He had a deep passion for helping young students start their careers while serving as a social work professor at Wilberforce University, and most recently serving as the head of the social work department. Whereas Dr. Wallace felt that his public service was noble and necessary, he served this community with integrity while upholding important values, including faith and family. In November 2015, the registered voters of the city of Xenia elected Dr. Wallace to a 4-year city council term commencing on January 1st of 2016 and ended in 2019, December 31st. But in November of 2019, the registered voters of the city of Xenia re-elected Dr. Wallace to a second 4-year term that commenced on January 1st of this year. Whereas during his tenure serving as city councilman, he diligently worked for the betterment of the city of Xenia by serving the community and city council through his active involvement in the following city commissions, boards, and committees. In 2016 to 2020, he was chair of the Economic Development Advisory Board. In 2017 to 18, he was a member of the Budget Review Committee. In 2017, he chaired the Loan Trust Committee. In 2016 and 17, he was a member of the Tax Incentive Review Council. And in 2016, he was a city representative on the Chamber Board of Directors. Whereas Dr. Wallace earned the respect of his colleagues and demonstrated by his election as the Vice President of City Council for 3 consecutive years in 2018, 19, and 2020. Whereas Dr. Wallace also volunteered his time and talents in supporting and implementing the visions, goals, and missions and beliefs of TCN Behavioral Health since 2016. He most recently served as Vice President of that board. Dr. Wallace was a proponent for excellent clinical care, and during his tenure, he assisted with leading significant changes within that organization, allowing TCN to grow and improve upon the services provided to its clients. And whereas Dr. Wallace is survived by the love of his wife Joyce, whom he enjoyed 55 years of marriage, they were blessed with 6 children, 16 grandchildren, and 6 great-great-grandchildren. Now, therefore, the city of Xenia hereby resolves that at least 5 members of the city council concur that Section 1, this resolution is declared an emergency so the city clerk can provide Dr. Wallace's wife and family with a signed, dated, and certified copy as soon as possible. Section 2, the city council on behalf of citizens of Xenia expresses its appreciation posthumously to Dr. Wallace for his dedicated years of service to our community and our citizens. And further, we extend our sympathy to Dr. Wallace's family, friends, and church members. Section 3, this resolution shall be placed in permanent record of the city of Xenia, acknowledging his dedicated service to the city of Xenia from January 1st, 2016 upon his death on December 2nd, 2020. Section 4, it is found that all formal actions of the city council concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council resulted in formal action in meetings open to the public, including Ohio Revised Code 121.22. This resolution shall become effective upon its passage and adopted on December 10th. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve this as an emergency.
Mr. President,
Yes.
in honor of the Reverend Dr. Edgar A. Wallace, professor, councilman, and pastor, I proudly introduce this as an emergency.
Thank you, Councilman Scribbins. And I'll entertain a second.
I'll second that.
Seconded by our esteemed mayor. Any questions or comments or concerns regarding this resolution? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. President, before the roll call, I'd just like to say long live the accomplishments, the legacy, and the memory of our colleague, Reverend Dr. Edgar A. Wallace.
All right, thank you very much. We'll have opportunity later tonight to comment as well in our closing comments. So at this time, I'll ask for a roll call so we can get this resolution presented. Thank you.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item is item H, administrative motion. This is authorizing the purchase of a 2021 Sutphen custom fire engine and accessories through the Ohio DAS Cooperative Purchasing Program in the amount not to exceed $535,000. Mr. City Manager, would you like to explain this?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This does relate to the item for the budget amendment that Mr. Duke brought to the table earlier. Through our 5-year CI process, the city has been planning for several years for replacement of a currently in service fire engine, which was originally brought into service in 1998. This apparatus has clearly reached its end of life and is no longer really practical for us to have as a frontline response unit. The engine is currently scheduled for replacement in 2021. However, in completing some research in advance of this for next year, our staff learned that the preferred and the state-approved apparatus fabricator, Sutphen, is planning to do a price increase on the base model for these engines effective sometime in early 2021, and we anticipate that that'll be in the range of about $28,000 to $30,000. In addition to that, we also learned that typically an engine, an apparatus of this type, has about a 12-month lead time, 12-month fabrication time, for a host of reasons, not the least of which is delays resulting from the pandemic. It's estimated that the lead time would be at least 16 months, meaning that if we waited till next year to approve this purchase, we'd be paying more and still waiting a pretty extensive amount of time. Given these facts, we believe that it's in the city's best interest, needing to replace this frontline unit to move forward with the purchase on this year's schedule, noting that payments won't be necessary until 2022 when we take receipt of the engine. And again, we're still looking at early 2022 before that engine will be available to us. The engine is available for purchase through the State of Ohio DAS Cooperative Purchasing Program. And so we are requesting authorization to move forward with that purchase from Sutphen Corporation in an amount not to exceed $535,000.
All right, thank you very much. Kind of deja vu because we just discussed this previously. So at this time, do we have any questions for our city manager? All right, I'm not seeing any, so I'll ask for a motion to authorize this purchase, please.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, I think I got
I can second
Councilman
it.
Scrivens and Councilwoman Dean for the second. Now, any questions in there? No. All right, roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. And just point of record for the public, this is a $500,000 investment in safety in our community for a new fire engine that we purchased in 1998. So I hope we can keep the one going for another year and a half. So our next item is the administrative motion. This is authorizing the execution of an agreement with the city of Bellbrook and Sugar Creek Township for dispatch services from 2020 to 2027. Mr. City Manager, would you like to cover this, please?
Yes, sir. The city has provided 911 and emergency dispatch services to the city of Bellbrook and Sugar Creek Township through a joint services agreement, which was originally executed back in 2013. The agreement is expiring, and the parties are preparing and desirous of entering into a renewal term of this agreement. Final details of the agreement have not been completely worked out. It's a bit of a unique arrangement as a three-way contract, and so we're working on those final details, but we do feel it's urgent to get authorization to go ahead and enter into that agreement. We're presenting this request this evening with the assumption that all requirements would be met by the law director from a legal format standpoint, and that we would obviously work to get the final details that are most advantageous to the city as the operating party of the dispatch center. We're looking at a 7-year term for this extension, and we would see some type of a annual rate increase in the range of 3%, which we believe should adequately cover any operating cost increase that we might experience over that period of time. So again, we're requesting authorization this evening of an administrative motion to allow for the execution of this.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for our city manager on this? All right, so at this time, I'll ask for a motion to authorize the city manager to execute this agreement with Bellbrook and Sugar Creek Township. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Moved by Councilman Branham. Do we have a second?
I can second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilwoman Dean. And unless there's any questions, we'll get a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
and President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item is an administrative motion. This is appointing Roger Sloan to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And at this time, I'll turn over to the mayor.
Thank you. We have had a vacancy for a little while. Mr. Sloan, he emailed and expressed an interest in being on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I spoke with him about 2 weeks ago at length. We probably talked for about 20 minutes on the phone, and he has a real desire to serve in the community. He has family that has been involved in local government in another community in Ohio. And he's taken a real interest in that, and he wants to be a part of serving. And I think he's going to do a great job. So I'd like to recommend him for this appointment. His background check is done, and he would be in a spot that would expire April 11th of 2021. I will say that he would normally be at the meeting, but since we are doing it via Zoom, he is not here, but he does know that it is on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. Would you like to make that motion to?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Motion by the mayor to appoint Roger Sloan to BZA, and we'll need a second. Would someone like to make that second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dean. Thank you. Any questions for the mayor regarding this appointment? All right, not seeing any, so roll call on this, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very, very much. Our next item, our last item on administrative motions is approving the schedule of bills in the amount of $675,000. Mr. Finance Director, anything for us tonight?
I have nothing specifically to reference on the bills.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the Finance Director?
Just one, Mr. President, if I might.
I'm sure. We'll go ahead with questions first.
Mr. Finance Director, on page 5, is the opportunity still open with the Lands End Outfitters? I tried to get in, and it kept kicking me out when I was on the phone.
I can take that one maybe. It's currently closed, but we will reopen again another opportunity next quarter. So we will have that in that internal shop quarterly.
Very good, very good.
I actually missed it too, so.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Hey, Council President, while we're on that page 5, Lands End, why are we not keeping that local versus going to some big corporate Lands End business? You know, why are we not utilizing Screenplay or, you know, some other local in-town shop?
There are a couple of reasons. One is the selection that's available. There's a pretty broad selection that was available. 2, the arrangement that we can set up in terms of how. So these are items that are not being purchased by the city. It's actually items that employees are purchasing that go through an approval process that are logoed with the city's logo. So they're actually purchasing it themselves, and so we allow a payroll deduction to do that. And I think the third reason, the employees themselves actually requested an option that would have a broader array of options in terms of apparel. So they do, Lands End provides a pretty broad array of types of clothing, everything from outdoor wear to professional wear. But in a nutshell, those are the reasons.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions for Finance Director on the schedule of bills? All right, so point of order, looking for a motion to pay the bills, followed by a second.
Motion to pay the bills.
Thank you. Motion by Councilman Scrivens. Do you have a second? I'll move first the second. And we'll go for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is reports of committees. Our first committee tonight is a report for BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals. Mayor Mays.
We did not meet due to lack of agenda.
All right, thank you. Nothing to report there. Our next report is Board for Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities, which I chair. So my report simply will be that we did not have a December meeting. However, we did recently just celebrate Hometown Christmas on last Saturday, December 5th, and that was from 11 to 3. If you saw the lines of citizens trying to buy food from the food trucks, I'd say it was pretty successful on that venue. I know we had approximately 170 children participated in the Santa House, and that was done virtually by Santa. We made connections with him and the elves to broadcast him from the North Pole to the Santa House. So those children that were able to visit with Santa also received a super nice gift item, a stocking that I want to personally thank Will Urschel and the Xenia Area Association of Ministers for that donation. There are some really cool prizes that were involved in that, and some do-it-yourself items. So I want to thank that organization for providing that, as well as our public relations department here, Christina Schaefer, and Ryan Baker, for the work that they did with the Santa House and the Elf on the Shelf competition. And if I am not mistaken, Mr. City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, we're still doing the window competition at this time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I forget what the deadline is, however.
Okay, there's information on the city's website about that. Am I right? Yeah. So, but I appreciate the volunteers. We had just a handful of people that were able to help due to COVID. I know the situation, it was not ideal. We weren't able to have the sleighs and the horse carriage rides through the town like we've had previous years. But 2020 has just been a whole different animal. It was really difficult. It's just a difficult decision to even continue with this event, but we wanted to have something to present to the community. We wanted to at least have kids have a little bit of joy in their lives. So I know there were some actual negative comments on Facebook about this, but we had some characters down with Santa, and we saw the Grinch and a gingerbread man, a walking Christmas tree, and Frosty the Snowman. So just like to thank those people for their time. These are volunteers that aren't paid, but they were there. And I'd like to also personally thank Mike and Lynn Engel, who were there passing out the gifts to the children after they went through the Santa House. So that's pretty much it. Yes.
Could I add in there was students from Legacy Christian that stuffed all of those stockings and volunteered to do that.
Okay.
And then Legacy also donated proceeds from their fall play, which paid for almost 80% of the items that were in the stockings. And then a small group from Emmanuel Baptist and a small group from Faith Community did some caroling. They did it in a way that was very safe and spread out and away from other people, but they took some time to do some caroling. So I just wanted to make sure to acknowledge them as well.
Thank you.
And then the nativity scene that was over by Xenia Crossings was something that was part of the Association of Churches as well, that they donated.
Very good. I knew I'd forget someone, so thank you for
only because I have a sticky note.
That in there. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, it's just a collaborative effort by a lot of people. The next item for BRCA will hopefully this spring be our Easter egg hunt, and we'll have more information regarding that. But at this time, I have nothing else to report for BRCA. Our next item is Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, and that is our attendee representative for that is Councilwoman Dean. Do you have anything tonight?
Not much. I didn't go to the meeting because it's all over Zoom, but there's just a lot of discussion for grants to help with relief with COVID, just because that's kind of thrown a wrench in everything. So I know that's kind of what I say every meeting, but that's kind of what's talked about every Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission meeting. So they're just exploring every possibility. So.
All right. Thank you very much. Our next meeting report is Planning and Zoning Commission. That's chaired by Councilman Branham. Do you have anything to report for December?
The December meeting is actually rescheduled to next week because due to lack of a quorum. So.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. All right. We'll look forward to your report next meeting. And then next is Traffic Commission, and that's chaired by Councilman Dean. Do you have anything to report tonight?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything. The meeting was canceled due to lack of agenda items.
Thank you very much, Councilman Dean. Appreciate that. No meeting due to lack of agenda. And so our next side.
Mr. President?
Councilman Scrivens?
For Councilman Dean, could we take a look maybe next year at the light that's on South Detroit at Rogers Street? That light was there for the school kids crossing from Spring Hill School. And now it's more or less a traffic light right in the center of a thoroughfare that really, to me, has become a vestige. So if you would, could you take a look at that, please, sir?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Scriven.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
President.
All right, thank you very much. So next is appointed officials reports and council comments. I'm going to first start with just letting the public know that tomorrow morning, the city of Xenia will submit a press release regarding the vacancy of our council position due to the tragic loss of Vice President Wallace. That press release will go out tomorrow. Applications, resumes, cover letters will be accepted through December 21st, followed by interviews for a potential candidate. That seat will actually be for 1 year. Our charter will require that that seat go to the Board of Elections for a vote by the electorate in November of this year. So with that being said, we'll go first to our city manager.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple of brief items. First, just wanted to provide a brief update to council and let you know that we'll be sending along a memo to all of you. As you know, we've been working with a group of staff within our public service department, evaluating services and operations, and we've made some progress and have some things that we'll be implementing for January of 2021. In addition to the GIS item that was approved this evening, we have some other steps for some changes, and it kind of dawned on me that we hadn't done a good update. So please, in the coming couple of days, look for a memo kind of updating you on some progress in that area, and appreciate the work that that group has been doing. I did want to echo the sentiments of the council president with regard to hometown Christmas. We did have to scale things back this year, but we're proud to have been able to do something that did bring some joy. I was able to bring my foster daughters down with my family, and it's been a tough year. And to see the joy in kids' faces at Christmas time is pretty good medicine to help forget about all the misery around us. So just a thank you to Baraka, thank you to Christina Schaefer and Ryan Baker, our staff members who helped from the staff side of this to get a program moved forward this year. And then we'll look at something better next year when hopefully things are improving. And then finally, I just wanted to acknowledge Councilman Scrivens yesterday. Had the honor of being among the city representatives who were able to attend the services for Vice President Wallace. And Mr. Scrivens did a fantastic job yesterday representing the city, offering condolences and some words of praise for the contributions of Vice President Wallace. And I couldn't have said anything any better. That's for darn sure. And it matters when it's coming from the heart. And Thomas represented us all real well yesterday. It's been a tough year for us. This is the second person in our family we've lost this year. So yeah, it's a season of perpetual hope, and we find solace in that. So our condolences to the Wallace family. He was a good guy, and hopefully that's the last of such tragedies we'll see with our staff family for a while. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Merriman. I appreciate that. So next on the agenda is comments by our finance director. Mr. Duke, would you like to add anything tonight?
Thank you, President Smith. Yeah, I would just give the public a quick heads up that the Regional Income Tax Authority, our agency who is administering our income tax, has closed all of their in-person offices due to the pandemic through the end of the year. So our office here locally will not be open to the public from an income tax standpoint. The foot traffic in the building for things related to income tax this time of year is very negligible. So I think the impact will be very minimal. But I did want to give people a heads up. Utility billing is still open and available to assist. If people need to make cash payments for their taxes, things like that, then they could certainly still do that here in this building. But if you a lot of the transactions are done via the mail or internet now. Anyway, so, but I did want people to be aware if they come into the city building that operation has closed to the public until after the first of the year. And then I also wanted to extend my sympathies and condolences to the Wallace family. His contributions to the Xenia community and beyond are very much appreciated. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. Madam Law Director.
Just to mirror what my colleagues said, my thoughts and prayers are with the Wallace family. My condolences. He will be greatly missed. He will be greatly missed. He was a great man. He was a good man. He was a kind man. I'm really going to miss him. Not going to see you all again before Christmas, so wish you all a happy holidays. Be safe, be with your families, but take the precautions that you need to keep each other safe. The end's in sight. We can get through this.
All right. Thank you, Madam Law Director. We appreciate your comments and your work for this city. I'm going to start first with bottom of my screen, and Councilwoman Dean, I'll have you go next, please.
Yeah, just to echo what everybody else says, my condolences to the Wallace family. I know it's really difficult to lose a family member. My family lost somebody within the last month plus, so I know that's difficult. It just leaves a huge void, so that's all.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Dean. Next, Councilman Branham.
I think I'm there. I just wanted to give a shout out to Xenia Community Schools for their efforts with delivering lunches to the students' bus stops, and also for those lunch ladies that are preparing those lunches as well. If somebody's not getting a meal delivered to their bus stop or have questions where those meals need to be picked up or whatnot, you can call First Student at 937-372-3876. I just think this is awesome that our local community schools putting this on and keeping the kids that are remote learning fed. I also just want to pass my condolences off to the Wallace family. This has been a tough year for the city of Xenia, losing two of our very own great workers and leaders, and I just want to thank Councilman Scrivens as well for talking on our behalf yesterday. And I'm sorry that I couldn't stop by to the 2:30 appointment, but I was there about noon, and he looked great for the circumstances. And I just thoughts and prayers are with the family and those affected.
All right, thank you, Councilman Branham. Next is Councilman Dean.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to say that I'm praying for the Wallace family. Mr. Wallace was always very kind and joyful whenever he had an interaction with him, and he'll be missed. So praying for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Dean. Next, Councilman Scrivens. I know you were a personal friend of, well, we all were, but real close relationship with Dr. Wallace, and I know you spoke yesterday at his funeral, but at this time, I'd like to have you speak, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, just wanted to thank Mayor Mays for finding a good fit for her Board of Zoning Appeals. It's really important to have good people to work with you, so that's good. I want to thank the Xenia Area Association of Churches and Ministries for all the work that they've done, both in front of the camera, behind the camera, and behind the scenes. Glad to see that the Xenia boys basketball team is starting out with a bang. Really wish that we could be there to cheer them on. So just hope this COVID thing gets, as we say, can turn the corner here at this point. I had a couple of calls this week. First one was about the possibility of Christmas decorations at the J.T. Henry Circle. I had the inquirement to give a call to the planning director, and I didn't hear back from her or him, so maybe that will resolve itself. I'm hoping that with the agreement with the Bellbrook and Sugar Creek that that's going to shore us up, but I'm still worried about the county if they're going to toe the line or what. So I'd like to have the city manager, if he could, to just speak to that for a moment, and then I'll finish my remarks.
Yeah, we have not resolved the underpayment issue at this time. And I think, speaking on behalf of the finance director, law director, and myself, it is still our expectation that the county would make the city whole. And so I won't get into all the detail, but there is some conversation that is occurring behind the scene as recently as yesterday.
Okay, very good. All right. The Christmas decorations downtown look fantastic. I'm really happy. Now, I know the street sweeper's probably in mothballs here for the rest of the year. Do we have any type of plan, Mr. City Manager, to keep at least the drift from the curbs and the street from going into the storm gutters during this off-season, we'll call it?
Yeah, if we have areas where there is trash that's accumulating, if folks could let us know, we can take care of that by hand. Obviously, this time of year we do take the street sweeper out of service because of the extreme conditions. So unfortunately, we won't be able to have that back out there until the spring. Now,
is the leaf collection program still afoot, or is that over?
They've actually had a really good this year. The timing of when leaves fell compared to, as it relates to when we had scheduled, timed very well this year. So they are pretty much complete with the service. If there are still any areas that for some reason there is an accumulation, folks can call our public service department and we can see what we can arrange.
All right, sir, very good. And then finally, I had a couple of calls. This is for you, Mr. City Manager. I had a couple of calls regarding the appropriation of I'd call it a holiday benefit for our city staff and for the people who we actually employ the workforce. And I understand that we have a class of employees, both a union and a non-union class. And I'm told that one class of employees is allowed to have a day off or something for Christmas or New Year's, and another class is not, and it's not in their contract. And could you speak to that, please, sir?
I can, sir, and this is a little bit, I think, of what Councilman Dean had raised last time that we talked about in your last regular session. So, Council, in prior years, and oftentimes it was Mr. Lauterbach who kind of led the charge of looking at providing some additional time off for employees right around this time of year, usually Christmas Eve, that sort of thing, depending on when the holiday fell. And in conversation with Council early this year, instead of doing that on an annualized basis and in looking at how the city has fallen behind other cities and county agencies as it relates to total holidays and time off, Council did implement some changes to our benefits that allowed the inclusion of additional holiday time, which is a half a day on Christmas Eve, a half a day on New Year's Eve. And then we have some flex holiday time that, depending on the timing of these holidays every year, that additional holiday time can be taken off. And this year it happens to work well to go ahead and take the entire day for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve off. These benefits, this particular additional time off, this benefit was afforded to our non-union employees. And typically when we have a new benefit, it almost exclusively goes through the unions first and then to the non-union. Well, this change for this additional holiday benefit this year happens to come right on the front end of renegotiations with all of our unions, and we're presently in negotiations with our FOPs as well as IAFF. And so the decision was made with all of this that we would apply this benefit to our administrative staff for this year. This would be something that could be negotiated into the additional contracts because we try to be consistent with this time off, but that we wouldn't necessarily just give this benefit away, but it was something that would have to be negotiated. If you recall, our FOPs earlier this year gave up the opportunity, set aside the opportunity for any type of pay increase and took a 6-month extension without any pay increase. So we did sign off, our council signed off on some additional time off for those groups because they've actually given something this year. So there is an inconsistency for this year as it relates to this particular benefit opportunity. But if I can just give you my personal opinion, our FOP, our PD folks, our dispatch folks, our fire folks had zero interruption in their services this year in terms of when the shutdown occurred. Additionally, our administrative staff continued to work a pretty full schedule because we were able to work from home in many cases. The groups that were frankly benefited with an opportunity to not be furloughed, had additional time off quite a bit through the spring, are I think, probably the same groups that are sort of complaining at this point that they're not getting this additional benefit at Christmas time. My position, my feeling is the council has been very generous in what you've afforded, and there is a process that we are going through to extend this benefit to other employees, and that process, unfortunately, doesn't time that everyone can get that benefit this year, but the opportunity, I think, will certainly be there as we move forward.
So we're not actually the Grinch who's stealing Christmas then?
Well, we're the Grinch with a lot of things, but I would say not with this in particular.
All right, sir, thank you. Well, I understand that things are planning to be equal, but sometimes the scale has to tip back and forth, and I think that's where we are at this point.
Yeah, I should just add, if I can, sir, for us to go ahead and give, some of these bargaining units are bargaining for this benefit right now, and to just grant this or gift this to other bargaining units outside of that process would seem fundamentally unfair to me. So,
Well, it's not only unfair, it's a violation of contract law. These employees have chosen to operate under a contract that outlines what they get and what we have to do. So to ask for something that's not in the contract, I think they would know better than that. We can't violate the contract. Even if it's in their benefit, we cannot do that. I've actually seen this happen. We could give this to a group that it's not in their contract, and they could fire an unfair labor practice against us because we're violating the contract. So it is, as Brent said, something legally that they're going to have to bargain for to put in their contract if that's something they want.
Very good. I appreciate this open air discussion. I think it's gone a long way for at least goodwill for contract negotiation. And then finally, Mr. President, if I can, just want to say a final farewell to our colleague and our friend and our associate, and I'll go ahead and say my brother in Christ. So just want to say it was a job well done, and as I've said before, it was a joy to roll with him, and I sat on his left-hand side. That made him my right-hand man, so I'm gonna be operating with one hand tied behind my back here until we get a replacement. So I'm looking for some good applicants, and hopefully we'll get the best qualified person to fill his seat. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Scrivens. And thank you, City Manager and Law Director, for your comments on those questions there. Next is Mayor Mays. And, and before she speaks, the mayor and I remember it was 5 years ago that you were elected to City Council for 2 years before you became mayor. And I believe, no, actually that's longer than that. Am I right? It was 5 years ago. Yeah, 7 years. Okay. So, we have a long history with Dr. Wallace. And so at this time, Mayor Mace, I'd like you to give some comments, please.
Thank you. I do want to start with acknowledging the Thanksgiving community meal. There was a lot of people that gave towards that and participated. So I just want to highlight a few. Green Memorial Hospital was very generous and gave us the Xenia Area Association of Churches that I'm a part of, gave a financial donation towards that. Of course, the Goki family, WGC, the golf course, they sent out a letter kind of last minute because we weren't sure we were going to be able to do it. And they had an amazing amount of people respond, and that raised the money to buy the turkeys. And Chris graciously ordered the turkeys for us this year. The Senior Center actually did all the cooking of the turkeys, and they were so helpful. Judy was very gracious with their facility. Gail Matson from the Fish Food Pantry and Josh Cernetic of Living Well Clinic just on top of the kitchen and getting the food. Josh ordered all the additional food. Gail cooked it. they are so good because they do things like they go in the day before to peel potatoes to make sure there's homemade mashed potatoes and all those kinds of things. So it's not just a store bought. And the city of Xenia, of course, the staff donated money for pies. We had so many, I think 75 pies donated, and then of course the Association of Churches gave money towards it and volunteers, and we had a great turnout of volunteers. I was really concerned that I wouldn't have enough drivers to go around and deliver meals for people who are shut in and aren't able to get out, and I didn't have to call anyone. It was so funny. There's several people. They just call me every year. I talk to them once a year, and they just call me and say, "I'd love to drive again. Can you give me the same area?" And they know the area where they want to go, and a lot of great volunteers. Emily from Osterlin Foster and Youth Services comes out and runs the day of for me so that I can spend time with my family. So just wanted to say thank you. We had a smaller crowd than we expected, and that's okay. We were a little surprised, but had just as many deliveries. So we served about 350 people, and really, really proud of that. And a lot of communities, in fact, most communities weren't able to do that, and we were able to still do that. Also wanted to acknowledge, I think Xenia had a great day on Shop Small Saturday. I was able to go out and hit pretty much Midtown and downtown, all the stores, most of the stores. Everybody was really happy with the traffic. And then the next Saturday, of course, with Hometown Christmas. And some of the ones that had a slower Saturday before had a better Saturday with Hometown Christmas. So it was really a good couple of weekends for our downtown stores. And of course, thank you to BRCA and the many people that were participating in that. My kids as well loved going into the Santa's workshop and seeing Santa even remotely. So that was a lot of fun. And then I'll just, of course, say my acknowledgments to the Wallace family as well. Edgar has been a dear friend to our family before council. Him and his wife have allowed my husband and I to just seek wisdom from them as parents and grandparents who've been down some really tough roads and have supported us when we've had some tough roads with our kids. And I often joke with Joyce that she goes before me as a parent and as a grandparent, as a spiritual leader for me. And now when we moved about a year ago, I can literally look out my front porch and see the back of their house. So she's physically in front of me too. And we pray for them often. And Edgar will be dearly missed. My son has talked a lot about him and already missing him. So we will be praying and loving the Wallace family, Kathleen and Erica and Brian, and praying for each of the kids. So I'm very thankful for his friendship and for his the role he's played in our lives and in our community. He's been an incredible man who has loved this community more than most people know and has prayed for this community more than most people will ever know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. I appreciate that. So before we close tonight, I would just like to just speak on a few topics. First is, as we move into the holidays, a season of joy and hope, also remember it's also a huge season for fraud. This time of year, a lot of fraudulent charities. Be careful that you are cognizant of your personal financial information. Please don't share that information. Check on elderly and loved ones. And if you can remember, it is better to give than receive. Also like to thank everyone that participated in Hometown Christmas and our city staff for all the work that they did to put that together. Also remind our colleagues that our next council meeting will be after Christmas. It will be more of a meeting for financial housekeeping and closing out the end of the year. Our next council meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, is scheduled for Tuesday, December 29th. And that is a 5:30 meeting, or is that 6? What did we decide?
5:30.
What?
5:30.
5:30. Okay, so remember that, 5:30. I know staff will be ready to get out the door that day. And really wish them all a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Also, just like to remind citizens, now that we do have the Oakland seat for City Council, that the press release will go out tomorrow. And also let my colleagues know that I'll be sending out a lot of emails back and forth to you guys regarding a committee and sitting in interviews for that position, as our goal is to hopefully get that position filled before our first meeting in January. And our first council meeting is scheduled in January 14th. As we close, I would just like to say that the first time I met Edgar Wallace or heard of Edgar Wallace was actually through our previous mayor, Mayor Marcia Bayless, who introduced me to Dr. Wallace. And the last several years have just been a pleasure to serve with him. Just the kindest man you could meet. Never got angry or upset in meetings. Calm people down. I would say because of his ministerial background, he was probably the last several years almost like our spiritual advisor for council. And his wisdom will definitely be missed. Xenia, not just Xenia, but Wilberforce University and his church just suffered a huge blow. So those that had the opportunity to know Dr. Wallace, I'm sure you share those sentiments with me. Again, my prayers and thoughts are for his wife, Joyce, his family members, and it just shows you how valuable and fragile life is. So don't take anything for granted. And stay safe during the holidays. Yes, we want to visit our loved ones, but also be smart and take precautions if necessary as we move through this winter season. At this time, unless there's anything else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President. Well,
thank you. I have a move by Councilman Scrivens and a second by Councilwoman Dean. Any questions regarding tonight's meeting? All right, roll call to adjourn, please.
Councilman Scrivens.
aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.